that distinctive sharp wail of a siren.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's that high-pitched European tone or the deep American one. When those lights flash, your whole drive just evaporates.
It does, and it's replaced by this sudden, high-stakes decision.
Your pulse jumps, you hit the brakes, maybe you swerve a little. But in that moment, when the panic is spiking, do you actually know the safest, most legal, and frankly, the most helpful thing to do?
That moment of adrenaline is exactly what we need to neutralize, because that knee-jerk, unpredictable reaction is so dangerous, and honestly, it costs time that first responders just don't have.
Right.
We're talking about situations where every single second is critical. In emergency medicine, we talk about the golden hour.
The golden hour.
Yeah, that hour from the moment of injury is the most vital window for stabilizing someone. If drivers, obstruct or react badly, even for a few seconds, that delay can shatter that window.
And that can literally be the difference between life and death.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that sets the stakes immediately. Our mission today is to move past that uncertainty. We've pulled together the clearest legal and practical guidance on what to do, when to act, and how to protect yourself while helping the people running toward the danger.
And it's way more complex than just pull over.
I think so too.
Yeah.
You might think you know the rules, but we're going to dive into the truly surprising number of vehicles that you have to yield for, and the really tricky scenarios, like what happens when a fire engine is bearing down on you at a four-way intersection?
Exactly. We need precision here. We'll cover everything from the mandatory following distance that trips up almost everyone to, what happens when you're boxed in at a red light. The goal is simple. Next time you hear a siren, your reaction is calm and calculated, not panic.
Let's jump right in. When we hear emergency vehicle, we think police, ambulance, fire truck.
Yeah.
Easy. But the sources we reviewed show the list is, well, it's enormous. What are we actually talking about here?
It's a massive roster, yes. The standards you mentioned are always included. But the legal designation expands pretty dramatically to include specialized vehicles that have lights and sirens and are in an active response.
Give us some of the surprising ones.
Okay, so think about specialized teams. You have to yield for hazardous materials or hazy mat response vehicles.
Right, makes sense. Chemical spills, that sort of thing.
Their arrival time is critical. Then you have emergency management vehicles, EMS supervisor vehicles. Those are usually rapid response SUVs with high-level gear, and even airport rescue and firefighting vehicles, ARFFs.
Okay, I have to pause on that one. An EMS supervisor car looks like a regular SUV. I bet most drivers hesitate, thinking, is that a real emergency? Or just someone with fancy lights?
And that hesitation is so dangerous. If the lights and sirens are on, you must treat it as a true emergency. No exception.
What up?
The list keeps going. Bomb squad vehicles, some search and rescue units. And here's where it gets really interesting for most people. In many places, certain utility and public works emergency trucks.
Like the power company.
Exactly. Power line crews responding to a storm, and crucially, specialized tow trucks and recovery vehicles also require you to yield if they're using flashing lights while responding to a big incident.
Wow, that's a staggering jump in liability. So if I see a utility tow truck with flashing lights, I have to treat it with the same urgency as a fire engine.
That's the law in many places.
So the question that always comes up, when these operators flip on the lights, do they just get a blank check to ignore all traffic laws?
They are absolutely granted legal exemptions, but, and this is a huge but, those privileges are not a license for recklessness.
Okay.
They can exceed speed limits, go through red lights, drive against traffic, park in restricted areas, but generally only when their lights and sirens are activated.
So they can fly past me at 60 on a 45-mile-an-hour road, but only if they're loud and bright. What stops them from just being dangerous?
This is the most critical piece of legal phrasing in this whole deep dive. The operator has to drive with what the law calls due regard for the safety of all road users.
Due regard. What does that actually look like on the road?
It means that while they have the right of way, they can't just assume drivers see them. In practice, they have to slow down at intersections, make eye contact, and confirm the path is clear. They're trained to balance the need for speed with the absolute responsibility to keep the public safe.
So if they're reckless, that exemption is gone.
Instantly invalidated, they can be held liable.
That context helps.
Yeah.
They're predictable actors in this system. So let's flip to our side of it. The core rule for us,
It's
non-negotiable, right? Always give immediate way.
correct. Immediate action. The universal standard is to move over to the right side of the road and come to a safe, complete stop.
And stay stopped.
Yes, stay stopped until all the emergency vehicles have passed. People always pull out after the first one and get surprised by a second or third right behind it.
Okay, and the moment they pass, a lot of drivers violate the very next rule,
Oh,
following distance.
yeah.
I see people pull out and just ride the bumper of the fire truck. What's the actual required space?
This is maybe the most commonly violated rule of them all. You have to maintain a safe following distance of at least 500 feet.
500 feet.
500 feet.
That is a substantial distance. That's like 1.5 football fields.
It is. And it's purely for safety and maneuverability. Think about a huge ladder truck. If they get to the scene and need to suddenly stop or swing a 100-foot ladder across the road, they need that space to operate safely.
If you're too close, you're not just in the way, you're in the hazard zone.
You are an active obstruction. Which brings us to drafting, following an ambulance to get through traffic.
So tempting for some people, I guess.
And so illegal. It is incredibly dangerous. You have no idea when or why that vehicle will suddenly brake or make a sharp turn. You're just setting yourself up for a high-speed collision and blocking the staging area for other responders.
And go from being a driver to being part of the problem.
Exactly.
Let's move to the hardest part, I think. Intersections and traffic stops. This is where people freeze, because the rules seem to contradict basic traffic law.
They can feel that way, but they're very clear once you know your position.
Okay, scenario 1. I have a green light, I'm approaching a 4-way intersection, and I see a fire truck coming across the perpendicular road. What's the move?
If you are approaching, you stop before you enter the intersection. Even with a green light, you yield.
But what if I'm already in the intersection when I see them?
Do not stop in the middle. I can't say that enough. Stopping there creates an impossible obstacle. You have to proceed safely through the intersection, clear it, and then pull over to the right.
That makes perfect sense. Don't become the roadblock.
Right.
Okay, but the really tricky one. I'm stopped at a red light, an ambulance is right behind me, siren blaring. Do I run the red light to get out of the way?
This is the critical legal nuance. You must not run a red light into protected cross traffic.
Why not?
Because you could get T-boned by a car that hasn't seen the ambulance yet, and now you've created a second crash that blocks the entire intersection. You stay put, pull as far right in your lane as you can, and wait.
But I've heard that if I'm at a stop sign, the rules are a little different. Is that true?
Yes. At a stop sign, if the vehicle is behind you, you are permitted to proceed through the sign after confirming the path is clear, and then immediately pull over. The difference is a stop sign governs a single point of entry, a red light governs cross traffic moving at speed.
So a cop isn't going to give me a ticket for carefully rolling through a stop sign to clear a path for an ambulance?
Generally, no. The law recognizes the necessity of yielding. As long as you do it safely and pull over immediately, you have a strong legal defense.
Good to know. What about roundabouts? They're everywhere now.
If you're in a roundabout, just exit at the nearest possible exit and then pull over. Don't stop inside the circle. That guarantees gridlock.
We also have to talk about the move-over law.
Yeah.
This is for stationary vehicles, right?
Absolutely vital. When you see a stopped emergency vehicle on the side of the road with its lights flashing, the law generally requires two things. First, move over a lane if you can do it safely.
And if you can't, if traffic is heavy.
Then you must slow down significantly, often to a speed well below the posted limit, to ensure the safety of the responders working right next to moving traffic.
That brings us to divided highways. I'm driving north, and there's a wide, grassy median. A fire truck is speeding south on the other side. Do I still have to stop?
This is a key distinction. If there is a physical median or barrier, a concrete wall, a guardrail, that wide, grassy strip, you are generally not required to yield.
That saves a lot of unnecessary braking.
It does. However, if the road is just divided by a painted line or a very narrow median with no barrier, you must yield and pull over to the right. When in doubt, just pull over.
What if I genuinely can't pull over? I'm boxed in by trucks, the shoulder's blocked. What's the protocol then?
The emergency operator is trained for this. First, slow down immediately. Second, put on your turn signal to show your intent to move right.
So you're communicating.
You're being predictable. You move as far to the right within your lane as you possibly can. Then you look for the very first safe spot, a driveway, a turnout, and get over there. The key is to avoid stopping in dangerous places, like on a blind curve or inside a tunnel.
Predictability is the antidote to panic. Okay, final area. Proactive awareness. How do we catch these vehicles earlier and avoid that last-second scramble?
We have to cultivate a constant state of awareness. Auditory first. Keep your music at a moderate level. If you think you hear a siren, crack a window. Sound travels weirdly inside a sealed car. And please, no noise-canceling headphones while driving.
Visually, what should we be doing differently?
It's about habits. Check your mirrors frequently, not just when you're changing lanes. Scan far ahead. But the single most useful strategy is watching other drivers' behavior.
That ripple effect.
Precisely. The moment you see a cluster of drivers braking suddenly way up the road, checking their mirrors, pulling over, that's a massive signal an emergency vehicle is coming long before you can hear or see it yourself. They are your early warning system.
That's such an actionable piece of advice.
And, situational awareness. If you're driving past a fire station or a major hospital, just be a little more on guard. This whole framework moves it from a moment of fear to a simple professional procedure.
This deep dive has really crystallized all of that. It shifts the focus from fear to just efficiency.
If we summarize the core philosophy, it's this. Safe yielding is an act of public service that requires immediate, calculated action. The two big takeaways are mastering that 500-foot following distance, it's non-negotiable, and the intersection rule. Proceed through if you're in it, then pull over. But never, ever run a red light to do it.
Excellent. So here's a final thought for you, the listener. Given this extensive, surprising list of vehicles that require you to yield, from hazy mat and bomb squads to certain tow trucks, and knowing that 500-foot rule, how often do you think drivers on your daily commute accidentally violate that distance? And what's the most unusual emergency vehicle you'll be watching out for now?
Drive predictably, apply this knowledge, and keep yourself and our first responders safe.
Thanks for joining us for the deep dive. Drive smart.